Look, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. You read the title. The answer is yes. Yeeps is not the same game that it was previously. But that's a good thing, and let me explain why. Starting with... So obviously, everything changes. That is a rule of life. Nothing will ever be the same forever. But that's a good thing. For anyone who thinks that Yeeps would have been better without 2.0, you have to remember that things will change and nothing will ever stay the same forever. And if you keep trying to cling on to the past and hold on to something that's already gone, you're going to fall behind in life and in Yeeps. So you have to remember that nothing will ever be the exact same as it was previously. And this brings me to part 2. So, a lot of people are really good at learning how to complain about things. For example, when Yeeps 2.0 first dropped, a lot of people were complaining about how buggy it was and how they didn't like the features, but that's just not something you should do. Complaining doesn't get you anywhere, and it doesn't change anything. Yeeps 2.0 happened, and it's not gonna go away magically just because you don't like it. So you have to remember to focus on the positives. Like, just think about it for a second. Without 2.0, we wouldn't have NPCs, outside terrain, or we didn't have the ability to fast travel. All of these things were stuff that the community was asking for. And while, yes, Yeeps 2.0 did have some problems at the start, like, for example, lots of bugs, you have to remember that that was in the past. I still see people complaining about that to this day, and you have to remember to just move on with things. Like I said, nothing's ever going to be the same, and you frankly just have to deal with it. If you keep trying to cling on to the past by just complaining about stuff that's already moved on, or like stuff that's already been fixed, it gets you nowhere. Moving on to the final part. Honestly, I could try and mask this as some deep meaning video, and frankly, I'm just gonna tell you, there's a real simple explanation. Change happens, and you have to learn to accept that. Because change is a good thing. Could you imagine what Yeeps would have been like if it had stayed the exact same? Because there are people who think, oh, Yeeps was so much better when the Rockstar bundle was out, or Yeeps was so much better when the Snow bundle came out. That is a profoundly false thing. That's what it's called nostalgia. The thing with nostalgia is, it is a lie. Nostalgia most of the time is just something you feel when you want to cling on to the past. But you have to remember, the game was fundamentally not as good as it is right now. The Rockstar update was very fun, but it wasn't exactly great. It was good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't anything fundamental or anything that the developers could be like, yep, that's our final update. That's not what it was meant to be. In fact, that's what none of the updates were meant to be, and none of these updates were meant to be the final update, the update that we are left with forever. Yeeps is meant to be an ever-changing game, and you have to learn to accept that. Because if you can't accept change, you'll just fall behind. So my final message is just to enjoy what we have right now, and just have a good time. I know Yeeps 2.0 isn't the best, but it's still a genuinely great update with some flaws, because everything has flaws. So now I'm done with my Yap session. So basically the entire point of this video was just to remember to accept change and to try and focus on the positives in life.